Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming here and listening today. My name is Peter Duveen, and the date is May 26th, 2024. It's a Sunday. I promised that I would make a second video, the first one being on the bird flu and the bird flu and raw milk. Now, on May 2nd, the New York Times printed an article basically saying that certain government officials and experts warned against drinking raw milk because of certain things that might happen, such as transmission of bacterial infections or even viral infections, or even at this point what is called the bird flu. According to several articles in the New York Times, it had been found that by this date at least two farm workers, had come down with the bird flu, and they caught it from cattle, which apparently caught it from birds that had the bird flu. And there were other aspects of the article saying that several cats had died because of exposure to bird flu. And also, I guess they had detected the bird flu even in pasteurized milk, but it wasn't, I think it wasn't viable. That is, it wasn't communicable in the form it was found in the pasteurized milk, which is milk heated to a certain temperature for a certain duration to allegedly kill allegedly malicious bacteria. So today I want to discuss this issue, revisit this issue very quickly. I just want to say I have a kind of an update because in yesterday's edition of the New York Times, that is Saturday, May 25th edition, they had another article about it. There are a lot of articles that appear about this issue. And it says here on page A21, Saturday, May 25th, 2024, study bolsters evidence raw milk may be a risk for bird flu in humans. Now, what was this study? This study was that, what happened? Let's see if I can quote a little bit. It said, unpasteurized milk, this is a lead. By the way, it's Apurva Mandavili is the author of this article. Quote, unpasteurized milk contaminated with H5N1, the bird flu virus that has turned up in dairy herds in 9 states, has been found to rapidly make mice sick, affecting multiple organs, according to a study published on Friday. So it looks like the mice became sick, but in a newspaper article, they can't go into things like, well, what were the controls? In other words, were there mice who were fed something else, or were they fed pasteurized milk as a control, so that we can compare this to something? The article really doesn't go into any controls, so it's very hard to judge from this article how good this study was. You'd have to go to the original article, which I might end up doing. It says, in the study, Dr. Kawoka and his colleagues analyzed virus from milk samples from an affected dairy herd in New Mexico. The researchers found that levels of the virus declined slowly in a sample of milk stored at 4 degrees Celsius. Well, that's nice to know. The levels of the virus went down upon refrigeration. They say about 39 degrees Fahrenheit, suggesting that H5N1 in refrigerated raw milk may remain infectious for several weeks. Of course, it's infectious, but the other lesson is that cold temperatures may actually get rid of the virus, which, of course, they don't mention here. The findings were published in the New England Journal of Medicine, but we'll have to track that down. At any rate, the implication is what? The implication, it says, well, the mice had the virus pretty much throughout their body and several organs. But let me just go on with this article a little bit because it makes some interesting points compared to the previous article they had on raw milk being roughly bad for people. It says here, finally, they tell us why people might ingest raw milk as opposed to having the pasteurized variety. It says here, raw milk has become popular in recent years as wellness gurus and right-wing commentators have voiced their support, even more so since the bird flu outbreak in dairy cows began. Some argue that it tastes better. I've argued that. And is more nutritious than pasteurized milk. Others contend that it aids immunity. So that's why people would want to drink it. And I just want to leave you with this. In other words, the implication here is that the bird flu has spread to cattle, which and the presence in raw milk of this virus has been detected and apparently can be transmitted through the milk to mice, which end up getting sick. So what does that mean for us? Hard to say, really. Let me just mention a few other things here. It says here, from 1998 to 2018, outbreaks traced to raw milk consumption led to 228 hospitalizations, allegedly, I'd like to put in, 3 deaths and illness in more than 2,600 people. Well, of course, the devil is in the details, and this article doesn't compare it to, say, grape juice, where who knows how many people have gotten sick from drinking grape juice over the last 20 years. Probably quite a few. So there's nothing really to compare with, eating asparagus. Maybe 227 hospitalizations have resulted over 20 years. Doesn't seem to be like a lot of hospitalizations over 20 years. It does say, though, that 3 deaths have resulted over the last 20 years that are sort of linked to this raw milk. Now, if you watched my previous video, you would find that I had actually bought my first bottle of raw milk from a local producer in Vermont where they are allowed to produce it. And I still, I guess I'm on my 3rd or 4th bottle. And as that article said, the existence of bird flu seems to have stepped up consumption of raw milk, especially since certain federal officials have come out against it, because people have sort of been accustomed to imagining that if the government is against it, it must be something really good. That's how much credibility government officials have in this day and age, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, where the government basically discouraged the use of several medicines that were readily available to the general public, and even discouraged doctors from prescribing drugs that had already been verified as okay by the FDA for certain purposes. So At any rate, people have a little bit of mistrust there. Now, what I'd like to do today is I promised I would, in my previous video, that I would show you something called a cream separator. So this is really a piece of glass with a hole in the bottom, and there's this, basically this thingy here with a stopper at the end of it that stops the hole up. The cream basically rises to the top. You might be able to see this, that it has risen just about to a certain level here. And in other words, the cream is from the very top to this certain level. The rest is what we call skim milk. And this cream separator, if we pull this plug, first the skim milk will empty out, and then the cream will be, then you put the stopper back in, and the cream will be left, and you won't separate the cream from the milk. I'm going to try to carry this operation out because I have this other jar that I can let the cream drip into. This was the original jar in which the cream came. So I'm not saying I'm going to be very good at this, but I say let's give it a whirl and see. Like I said, one of the benefits of having raw milk is that it does separate into cream and milk, cream and skim milk, and then you can get your own, and then you can use this, what is called a cream separator. I don't know if you can see this, but it says Perfect Cream Separator, patent January 9th, 1906. So it's an old piece of apparatus. Let's see what happens. I hope this whole thing doesn't come down collapsing. How am I going to do this? Okay. I will remove this for a moment. It's actually leaking a little bit because the stopper is very old. I'm going to put this down here. I'm now going to put this up here, and I'm going to remove the stopper. There comes the cream. There comes the skim milk pouring into the bottom jar there. And this is what is going to happen is okay, here we go. There. Oops, let's just do that. Okay. So I think we've accomplished our task there. There's the cream left in the jar, and there's the skim milk in the lower jar. The cream is left in the apparatus. Now, this is going to be a little tricky for me because the stopper being 100 years old does not make a perfect seal. So I'm going to have to do something rather quickly. And I hope you'll forgive me. Just wait right there. I'm back. I'm going to pour the cream into a bowl so that it doesn't leak out, because this leaks a little bit. And whoops, I made a mess. Okay, I knew I would do that. I still don't know how this thing works, that's why. Well, here's the cream, friends, separated from the milk. And I thank you for watching today, and hopefully we'll have another great video in a little while. So, what do I do here? Okay, so we shall see you again soon. This is Peter Duveen signing off for himself. Thank you very much.